Visible. So, hi everyone. Welcome to today's Teen Debater Skill Session. I'm so glad you're all here. My name is Jaisshna and I'm a manager of the organizing committee here at the Teen Debater. I'll be your host and speaker for the session on a topic that's super important in debates and months together. That is POI power, mastering the art of giving and handling points of information. Now, if you've ever felt that rush when someone stands up during your speech or a POI, or if you've hesitated to offer one yourself, you're in the right place. POIs are those quick moments in a debate that seem small, but they can completely shift the energy in the room. A smart POI, a smart POI are those quick moments in a debate that seem small, but they can completely shift the energy in a room. A smart POI can shake your opponent's confidence or boost your credibility in just a few seconds. And today, we're going to learn exactly how to do that with confidence, with clarity, and with strategy. We'll be covering how to craft impactful POIs that actually land, take POIs without getting completely thrown off, and use POIs to make yourself stand out, even when you're not the one speaking. By the end of this session, I want you all to feel like POIs are no longer interruptions, but opportunities. So let's dive right in. POI power. Let's make this session interactive, insightful, and super fun. All right. Before we get into proper strategies or techniques, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a POI? A point of information or POI is a brief interjection or, in simple words, a question that is offered by a speaker from the opposing bench during a speech. It's your chance to clarify or poke holes in the argument that's being presented in real time. Think of it as your moment to say, hey, I have something to say about that, but in a more structured and smarter way. So when are POIs allowed? POIs are typically allowed after the first minute and before the last minute of the speaker's time. This time is called the protected time. All right. So, for example, in a 7-minute speech, POIs can be offered from minute 1 to minute 6. Outside of that, you're not supposed to raise a POI. So, who can give a POI? Only members of the opposing bench, the side that isn't currently speaking, can offer a POI. So if a speaker from the government bench is speaking, someone from the opposition can offer a POI and vice versa. It's like that. Next. Um, Here's the little catch. You can offer a POI, but the speaker has the right to accept it or decline it. And if you're speaking, accepting a POI is completely optional, but strategic, and we'll get to that soon. So, in short, POIs are those moments that make you more visible during a debate, even when you're not actually holding the floor, and they can make or break the speaker's momentum. So, let's keep going and explore how this actually sticks. Now, coming here, now that we understand the basics of points of information, let's explore what sets a great POI apart from an average or a more ineffective one. So, what is a great POI? A great POI is one that is concise, strategic, and directly challenges the core of the speaker's argument. It should either expose a weakness or highlight a contradiction or raise a significant question that the speaker must address. All right. So, conciseness is key here. You only have a few minutes to deliver a POI. That's ideally under 15 seconds. It should be precise, it should be focused, and it shouldn't be like a mini speech. The goal is to interrupt the flow just enough to make an impact, not derail the debate completely. Addressing weak points. Effective POIs often target the vulnerable areas in an argument, places where logic doesn't exactly hold, where evidence is missing somewhere, or where assumptions are broad. Rather than being aggressive, your POI should be insightful and your POI should be thought provoking. Let's look at a comparison to understand this better. When it comes to an ineffective POI, your argument is completely flawed because there are many reasons why that policy doesn't work. And I have examples from other countries. And, if you keep going on like that, it's too long. It's way too unfocused and it is likely to be dismissed by the judge or whoever is present there. If you want to talk about an effective POI, you can say, if this policy failed under identical conditions in 2016, what has changed to ensure its success now? Now, this statement that I just said, it's more direct, it's way more relevant, and it's way more difficult to ignore. If I have to give a summary of what I just said, a strong POI is brief, strategic, and intellectually challenging. It's not about just interrupting, it's about adding pressure in the right places at the right time. Let's now move on to how POIs affect the right structure, timing, and tone. Okay. Now that we know what makes a POI effective, let's look at some of the most common types of POIs that you can use strategically during a debate. Each type serves a different purpose, and understanding them can help you choose the most effective form depending on the argument that's being presented to you. Firstly, we have clarification POIs. These are used when the speaker has something to say that's, let's say, vague or it's ambitious. You can politely request clarification, which can sometimes reveal a lack of clarity or depth in their argument. For example, you can say, could you clarify what you meant by state control in this context? So, when you say that, the speaker goes two steps back to think about what they said. It interrupts their flow and it gives you an advantage. Next, logical flaw POIs. Now, these point out the gaps or errors in the logical structure of an argument. They can be highly effective in weakening the credibility of the case being made. For example, isn't it contrary to argue for individual freedom while also supporting state imposed restrictions? Now, that statement, again, it makes the speaker think. They are completely derailed from their speech and now they're thinking about your question, right? So you were bringing out the logical flaws that they have made in their statement. It could be just lack of evidence, right? So next, hypotheticals. These introduce a possible situation or a possible scenario that challenges the robustness of the speaker's argument. Hypotheticals are great. Okay, trust me, they're great for testing how the argument holds up in the real world. So you can, for example, you could say something like, if this policy were applied in a country with limited infrastructure, would the outcome be the same? Right. So you basically give a more hypothetical situation and test the speaker, whether they think in the same manner you're thinking. Next, coming to contradiction catchers. These highlight internal contradiction either within the speaker's own speech or between their speech, the speech of theirs, and between that of their teammates. For example, you can say, your partner argued that the state has a moral duty to intervene. Are you now saying that the state should not interfere at all? So now you're basically trying to create a dispute within that speaker's team. It it isn't exactly the right thing to do, but still it gives you the upper hand and it challenges their thinking. So those are called contradiction captures. Coming to moral dilemmas. These are powerful and value based questions. They force the speaker to take a stand on difficult ethical questions or often exposing inconsistency or discomfort. Example, if I say, if saving requires breaching privacy, which do you believe is more important, security or freedom? Right? So this is completely ethical, the moral dilemma POS. Moving forward, let's talk about something that's just as important as what you say in a POI. That's how you say it. In a debate, etiquette and delivery matter just as much as content. If you don't go according to the format, it could lead to loss of points for your team, and even uh, it might even end up in probably disqualification of your team. So just make sure etiquette and delivery is properly mastered before you get into the whole POI concept. So this brings us to POI etiquette and rules. Following the correct procedures ensures your POIs are taken seriously and that you maintain a professional, respectful presence in the room. Remember, the speaker, whoever is speaking, always has the right to decline your POI. So you can anytime bring up a POI that is between minute 1 and between minute 6 of the debate, but it is completely up to the speaker. So if you say a very immature or a illogical point, it can always be ignored. So you have to follow the proper etiquette here. So firstly, raise your hand or your paper confidently. When you raise your hand or paper to offer a POI, raising it clearly and correctly and confidently shows engagement and shows readiness. Avoid hesitating or being overly aggressive. Aim for calm confidence. Remember, being calm is also taken as being confident. So, when you're calm and you're composed and you know what you're going to say, you have evidence supporting what you're going to say, it's the confidence just comes naturally. Next, accept POIs carefully. If you're the one speaking and you choose to accept a POI, do so with composure. All right. Pause your speech briefly and signal clearly. For example, you can say, yes, go ahead. It's important not to be very dismissive or not to be very sarcastic in your tone, even if you disagree with your point. Respect the time and tone. Timing is everything, all right? Only offer POIs during unprotected times, after the first minute and before the last. Do not persistently interrupt or offer multiple POIs in a quick session. Once declined, step back and wait. Additionally, your tone should always be respectful, even when you're making a challenging or a provocative comment. Debate is about intellectual confrontation. It is not at all about personal attacks. Now, let's look at how to handle POIs effectively once you accept them during your speech. First, stay calm and listen. Don't rush to respond. Take a moment to really listen. A calm and composed posture shows confidence and it screams that you have everything in control. Acknowledge and respond clearly. Briefly acknowledging the question and responding directly. These show that you are focused and these show that you don't actually have to over explain what is actually given. For example, you could just say, that's a fair question, but here's why our model still stands, and give your your statement. All right, you have to acknowledge their problem in the statement you're making. It fetches you points. Then bridge back to your main speech. Don't get completely lost in the POI. Once you've addressed it, smoothly transition back to your core argument. All right, so now after, let's say you just finished giving your response to whoever asked you a POI, you just say, and that's why our policy prioritizes long-term sustainability, as I was explaining earlier. So when you craft statements like this, it shows them that you are confident, that you have researched, and that you have logical evidence to support your statement. All right. While POIs can be powerful, they can also backfire. All right. If they are not handled properly, they can always backfire. So let's go over a few common POI traps that can be avoided. All right. These are some traps that I have come up from my experience. So you can just go through it. But firstly, I'll explain rambling. If keep it short, if your POI sounds like a mini speech, it will likely be rejected or it will likely be ignored. Being ignored is way worse than being rejected, trust me. All right. Being aggressive. Assertiveness is good, but hostility isn't. Aggression weakens your credibility and can affect your speaker points, right? So do not be aggressive. Do not get offended when somebody asks you a question. Remember what I said before. Being calm and composed shows that you're beaming with confidence. Next, irrelevant interruptions. Make sure your POI actually engages with what the speaker is saying. Off-topic interjections hurt your case more than it can help it. So if somebody is talking about a particular topic, make sure you ask them a point of interest, a point of information about that topic. Next, coming to repetition. Don't keep offering the same point in different words. All right. It might look like you're just covering up time, but do not offer the same points in different words. If it didn't land the first time, just move on. Next, overusage. Offering too many POIs in a short span can be disruptive and can appear desperate at times. So focus on the quality of the POIs, not quantity. If you have one POI that's so good that it can just destroy the opposition speech, go for it. But don't think that if I ask three POIs simultaneously, it can fetch you points. No, it won't. It will likely be ignored or rejected, like I said earlier. Moving on. Effective timing for POIs in debates. Timing can make or break a POI. Let's look at when to offer one for maximum impact. Firstly, identify weak points in arguments. Wait for logical gaps. Wait for vague statements or contradictions. That is your entry point. When you wait for something, let's say they just stammered somewhere, all right, you have to wait for those gaps, and that's when you come up with your POI. Next, challenge after strong claims. If a speaker makes a bold or a sweeping claim without backing it, step in with a targeted POI. Next, utilize pauses. Natural pauses are ideal for offering POIs without sounding disrespectful. It shows control and it shows attentiveness to what the speaker was saying earlier. Assess the speaker's confidence. If the speaker seems unsure or is repeating themselves, it might be a good time to apply the pressure. Plan in advance. Don't think of POIs just on the spot. Jot down potential ones when the opposing team is speaking. Now, to truly master points of information, theory alone isn't enough. It takes regular observation and regular practice. Here are some effective ways you can keep growing when it comes to giving POIs. Watch top tier debates. Observe how experienced debaters give and handle POIs. Notice their tone, their timing, and how smoothly they return to their speech after addressing a point. Maintain a simple log where you note POIs you gave or heard in terms. What worked, what didn't, and why. This helps you reflect and refine your technique over time. Debrief after rounds. After every debate, review your POIs, where they're relevant, where they're concise, where they're strategic. Discuss with your team or your mentor to get feedback. Next, always practice solo. While watching debates or YouTube videos, pause and try crafting a POI in real time. This builds speed and sharpens your instincts. Let's stay updated. All right. Good POIs often tie to current events and real world logic. Being well read helps you bring relevance and depth into your points. So make sure you're always up on your current affairs. Remember, mastery comes with consistency. So keep engaging, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep learning. POIs are not just interruptions, they're opportunities to shift the momentum of a debate. Coming next. Next slide. To win POI rounds, it's not just about giving POIs, it's about using them smartly. So here are a few tips. Aim for just 2 POIs per speech. This shows active engagement without overwhelming the speaker. Track who takes POIs. If a speaker consistently refuses POIs, it reflects poorly. Use that to your advantage. Remember quality over quantity. One sharp POI is better than 5 forgettable ones. Think before you raise your hand. Practice impromptu thinking. Speed and clarity matter. The more you practice spontaneous analysis, the more natural your POIs will become. So with this, it was a short session that we spoke about. With this, we'll wrap up with the key takeaways for today's session on POIs. So remember, a good POI is a sharp, short, relevant, and well-timed point of information. Know how to offer a POI with clarity and confidence. Learn to respond calmly, bridge back to your speech, and stay composed. Practice regularly through journaling, through solo drills, and watching top debaters. Keep a list of prompts and formats that work for you as an individual. They'll help you under pressure. And finally, POIs are more than just interruptions. They're your moment to challenge, to engage, and to stand out. Use them wisely, and they can shift the direction of the entire debate. And finally, it's time to engage with POIs. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for the perfect round. In your very next debate, start putting this into practice. Whether it's giving one sharp POI or responding with confidence, every attempt helps you grow. POIs are your chance to challenge ideas, to stay sharp, and make your presence felt even when you're not speaking. So go ahead, speak up, lean in, and let your POIs leave a mark in whichever debate you attend. So let's make a debate. Let's make an impact one interruption at a time. So, guys, that brings us to the end of today's session on POI power handling points of information. I hope this workshop, this small session, gave you a deeper understanding of what makes a strong POI and how to give and respond to them effectively, and how to incorporate them into your overall debating strategy. Most importantly, remember, POIs aren't just about speaking, they're about listening, analyzing, and thinking on your feet. With consistent practice, they can truly set you apart as a sharp, dynamic debater. Thank you all for being an enthusiastic and engaged audience. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you use your POIs in future debates and how they help you level up. If you have any reflections or want to try out any POIs live, you can always join in the daily debates here at the Team Debater every day at 8 p.m. IST. You can join in the topic and the link, and everything will be sent, and you can practice your debating skills.